This is 757 Saturday Sports Talk. Here are Matt Hatfield and Coach Ed Young.
Where you are, we thank you for tuning in with the Coach Ed Young. I am Matthew Hatfield. Coach is not in as pleasant a mood this week as he was last week because of what happened on the hardwood with the Smithfield Packers. But more on that later in the show, perhaps. Ed, another enjoyable weekend of NFL playoff action because we had so much riveting drama yet again. Not one, but two overtime games in the divisional round in the AFC. Denver outlasting the Buffalo Bills, who had their hearts broken yet again. Houston ends up falling to New England because of the turnover bug. Meanwhile, in the NFC, Seattle spanks San Francisco. We'll talk about those games now. And you also had, in overtime, the Rams and the Bears, another thriller in a postseason that is now included. Literally, we've had 14 fourth-quarter lead changes and 5 or 6 rallies in the last 3 minutes of games, and it looked like the Bears were about to do it again to those Los Angeles Rams when it became 4th and 4, and Chicago had the ball. LA needed one stop, and Caleb Williams rose to the occasion yet again. Cole Kmet makes his presence felt. Chicago gets to OT. Ed, were you surprised Ben Johnson didn't go for 2 in the win there after that 7-play, 50-yard drive in a minute 32, and LA was stunned?
Not really. I always like to put myself in coaches' positions, even though it's a different sport. You're in the playoffs. Sometimes that 2-point is a big gamble. Now, the weather wasn't great, so maybe you want to think, snap, bad hold. How much was the wind was a factor. It's very cold out there, hard to hold on the ball. Maybe we should go for 2. But, you go for the extra point. More than likely, that's 90. It used to be 100% guaranteed. Now I'd probably say 95%. And we play it in overtime because the Bears have more than 9 lives. So you trust your offensive unit and your defensive too. And I think the Bears defense had some key stops in that today too that they really don't get any credit for. So not really surprised. A heck of a game. The catch was all right by Kmet. It was the throw because he's under pressure. It's too bad that video doesn't show where he's running backwards and then all of a sudden he turns and I'm like, it's either going to get batted down or it's whatever because they're in his face. And as soon as he lets go, he gets hit. The Ram defenders stand up and they're looking away like they did it. And realize better look behind you. You caught it. Just one heck of a throw. One of the best throws that I've ever seen in NFL history.
Yeah, that was one of the reporters in the back of the end zone that got shipped my way for us to use. And interesting enough, it's funny. You asked that question to one of our guests on the program on Saturday, Howard Balzer, longtime Pro Football Hall of Fame voter, Sirius XM NFL Radio, Lindy's Pro Football Magazine. You asked him about that matchup, Rams and Bears, and how much it intrigues him. Do you give an edge to anybody and just the whole playoff picture in general? And here's what he told us during our conversation.
This is a heck of an interesting game because you're right. I mean, the Rams were the flavor of the week for a long time, and they were seen, coming into the last month as the team that was best positioned to potentially win the Super Bowl. I've said all along that whoever the teams are in the playoffs, that I think it's wide open because I don't see any team that automatically jumps out over all the others. Some have good offense, some have great defense like the Texans, and they're going to have a battle with the Patriots on Sunday. But with the Rams, they didn't play that great down the stretch. And it's hard to pinpoint a reason. Some of it was turnovers. Some of it was just, you're playing good teams. And that's the thing. When you're in the playoffs, you're playing other good teams, obviously. And I always remember back to Tony La Russa. It was he was a baseball guy, but he always said, hey, the bottom line is getting to the postseason because after that, basically anything can happen. And I think for a large part, that's the case with the NFL. But they're going into Chicago on what's supposed to be windy, cold, maybe a little snow. And the thing is, though, you can see the Rams getting out and playing well and having a lead, but you can never count out the Bears. And we've seen that enough times to know that this is a great this has been a great come from behind team. And so that's what makes this one very intriguing to try to analyze and to say it comes down to this. And I always ask this of people. Would you be surprised whoever won any of these games? And if you say no, then that just tells me, well, there really isn't a true favorite.
He nailed that one at Howard Balzer, and you see the Rams a winner in overtime over Chicago 20-17 as they'll now move on to take on the Seattle Seahawks. Couple more things about this game, Ed. Number one, how great is Puka Nacua? He makes so many important catches for Matthew Stafford. Number two, huge catch by Devontae Adams, who was brought in to help them get to this spot and have a chance to compete for a Super Bowl, and an enormous interception from safety Cameron Curl that set up the winning field goal from Harrison Mevis. But give a lot of props to Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams, and the Bears. I know Williams got picked off 3 times, but this is a team that nobody saw going this far, and they had all these fourth-quarter comebacks, and their defense, which was much maligned. I mean, they had guys in their secondary. If they walked into the grocery store, you live in Suffolk, and Jaquan Brisker and Kyler Gordon and C.J. Gardner-Johnson said hello to you. Would you know who they are? Probably wouldn't.
I think I would.
No, you wouldn't. But they played well in this game, and much like we talked about with Carolina last week against the Rams, had a good showing for themselves. Speaking of the other NFC playoff game on Saturday night, this was a bloodbath. Seattle absolutely tattooed San Francisco 41-6. You remember in December when we were coming back from the Woodside Way basketball showcase in Newport News, and we sat down in an establishment and put the game on the TV. It was 13-3. Seahawks won a snoozer, defensive struggle. Defense played great again, but 41-6 over San Francisco. And we make so much of these defenses that get sacks and interceptions, the takeaways. The Bears get takeaways. Houston's defense smothers you and gets sacks. Seahawks do it with pass deflections. They had 7 pass breakups from 6 different guys, one of which is a linebacker, Ernest Jones, former Ram, who will play his former team, and Cooper Kupp on offense, another former Ram, who complements Jackson Smith and Jigba. Probably the only real marquee name on this team, because you don't think of Sam Darnold or even the running back there, Kenneth Walker, of being big names. And this defense doesn't have the household flavor or flair that it did with Richard Sherman and former 757 great Cam Chancellor at Memorial High School in Norfolk as part of that Legion of Boom. Chancellor, Richard Sherman, Earl Thomas, even the quarterback Russell Wilson was a big name face. Pete Carroll, rah-rah guy, a coach at Southern Cal that won championships. Mike McDonald's not a guy that you would probably hang out with or know a whole lot about. He's sort of an unknown coach here, 1 win away from a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think you pegged him really well. But I think the big consistency all year long for Seattle is that defense. It's way better than what people give it credit for. Like you said, the former Legion of Boom was what you knew Seattle for. And then, of course, all those guys went by the wayside and as time went on. And right now, my feeling is that's the team to look out for in these playoffs to get to the Super Bowl. There's some other intriguing situations with the other winners, but I think Seattle is that game. They took the opening kickoff all the way back, and I'm watching it. I said to myself, I hope this ain't over before it starts. It was over. Pretty much it was it because San Francisco never got the lead after that. So, and San Francisco, the problem with them this year was just so many injuries. To be where they were is amazing with all the injuries. All key guys injured, and they had guys injured in that game. So that was amazing how far they got.
So you agree with the odds makers. Seattle's been installed as a 2.5-point favorite to open. You agree with that. And they beat the Rams coming from behind at home the last go-round, lost a close one in L.A. You think that's right?
You know, I said Ram middle of the year. I think I jumped on a Ram bandwagon. Beginning of the year, it was Buffalo, Philadelphia. Then I jumped on the Ram. Philadelphia wasn't impressing me. I was staying with Philadelphia and Buffalo because they're both in the playoffs. Right now, I'm hoping I want the Rams to win it all, but I got to think Seattle is going to be the favorite to win it all of all the teams left. Is the better team.
All right, ladies and gents, plan accordingly because as you see on the screen with his picks this season, they weren't too great in the regular season. Finished 5 games behind me, 4 behind Bruce Pearl of the Virginia Beach Mustangs, the championship VB Mustangs, not the Bruce Pearl who used to coach at Auburn and Tennessee in the SEC. And as for the playoffs, Ed was gloating after the wild card round, and now he's trailing because of an 0-3 week. Thanks to his whiffs on Rams -3.5, lost by 0.5 point. Needed that touchdown, not a field goal. Lost on under 40.5 Houston, New England, and he lost on Buffalo +1.5, as did Bruce and I. But I got wins thanks to over 44.5 in the Seahawks-Niners game. Seattle did all the work for me there. And under 48.5, I should say, Rams-Bears. Bruce lost on Niners plus the 7 and the Bills plus the 1.5. Did win on New England -3. So it's not been a great year of picking for you. But we'll let you pick one of our songs later in the show, I guess. And we'll come back and do some AFC breakdowns right here on 757 Sports Talk. You're watching with us on Cova Sports TV. Back in a bit. And we're back with you here on Cova Sports TV and 757 Sports Talk with Coach Ed Young. I am Matthew Hatfield. And Ed, the AFC Championship game is set. It was a heartbreaker for Buffalo Bills fans, as you mentioned earlier in the show, as Denver was able to win it 33-30 in the overtime over the Buffalo Bills, who ended up turning the football over way too many times to advance to a conference championship. Poor Josh Allen, 2 INTs. They had fumbles galore, 5 giveaways to Denver's 1. And this is a game where Buffalo was down 13, 23-10. They took the lead on Dalton Kincaid's touchdown early in the fourth quarter, extended it to 4 at 27-23. Bills watched the Broncos go ahead with 55 seconds to go, but Matthew Prater hits a 50-yard field goal. Then in the OT, it's Will Lutz with the field goal after Buffalo cannot capitalize. The real downer about this, though, is Bo Nix out for the rest of the playoffs. As Jared Stidham, a guy who hasn't been at quarterback starting a game in 3 years, will get the start against New England, the team that drafted him in the AFC Championship. How wild is that? Very wild.
Yeah, that's amazing. Number one, to hear about the injury, which was not immediately after the game, but soon enough. I thought it was, fake news, and then investigated a little deeper, and sure enough, it was a fractured bone in the ankle. He's out. I had to look up who is the quarterback, and back up Stidham, and I'm like, wow, he played for New England, and he's never started a playoff game, and now he will, and that's a heck of a time to get your first start. But they got a team around him. It's just a shame that Nix won't be able to play because he's the one that really got him there to begin with.
What'd you make of the catch late in that game, Buffalo in the overtime? Brandon Cooks looks like he's got it, and they give it the interception to McMillan. I thought at first glance it was a catch. They didn't review it. Sean McDermott of William & Mary fame was highly upset about it, thought it should have been reviewed. You make much about that, and Gene Steratore, the rules expert, came on and was going to, give you the league spiel, if you will, go to bat for them in a lot of ways. And Tony Romo and Jim Nantz didn't think it would be a catch, but in real time, I thought that might end up being a catch, and Buffalo was on its way to winning it. And then the INT, Nix and company go down the field, and Denver breaks the hearts of Buffalo again. I think Buffalo, though, Josh Allen made some miscues. He got a little Brett Favre gunslinger to him. They got to get him some better receivers. I mean, if Khalil Shakir and Keon Coleman are your guys, it's not Jackson Smith and Jigba. It's not Puka Nacua. It's not Tyreek Hill. It's not someone of that caliber. They need to go be on the phone and trade for A.J. Brown from Philadelphia and their defense has got some parts, but not great against the run, better against the pass. They got to get better personnel around Josh, who's turning 30, if they want to get to a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I agree on that assessment. I think receiving needs to be upgraded for sure. Speaking of the receiving, after seeing it a few times, after somebody compared it to a catch by Kansas City, similar situation, and watching Devontae Adams in the game against the Bears, where it looked like they had the Bears had ripped it out of his hand on the way down. And they said, nope, it's a catch because he had it, knee hit the ground, even though the defender's hands were on the ball. So now I'm confused.
Yeah.
Because
what is a catch?
Right, because that was considered a catch. So the way I look at it is if both people have their hands on the ball and nobody really has distinct possession and the receiver's knee hits, tie goes to the runner. It's a catch by the offense, and let's get moving. That's how I look at it. And it seems like it's up to the discretion of the official. And why they didn't go look at a replay, because I heard people say, well, why did he throw a flag to challenge? it's not a time you do that. They're supposed to automatically review any potential play that could have an outcome of the game, which that one definitely did. And they did. So I don't know. They didn't make as big a deal about it as I thought they would. It's like, okay, let's play on. But I'm just confused to the NFL as what are you just arbitrarily saying it, or is there a specific rule?
What we've learned is in professional sports, even college and high school, things can change quickly in 24 hours, a week, a month, 365 days, a year. Teams go from worst to first in their divisions, missing the playoffs to making the playoffs and making a deep run in the postseason. And New England's one of those teams that was at the bottom. Remember, Gerard Mayo of Kicatana High School, an alum out of the 757, was coaching. In comes Mike Vrabel, and now New England is another victory away from getting to another Super Bowl. Not with Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, but with Mike Vrabel and with Drake May. And the thing that sticks out about the Patriots, a little bit like Seattle, it's a workmanlike group. Certainly May is the headliner, but here they are, and they have a guy that's been a great rookie in Trevion Henderson from Hopewell High School and The Ohio State. C.J. Stroud in Houston, I say things change in a year. He was such a beloved rookie, incredible start, interceptions galore, and then you got the desk for ESPN breaking down between Ryan Clark and Swagoo, Marcus Spears. Should he get benched for Davis Mills? We're not talking about for some, guy that's got a record. Davis Mills. Now, he had 4 INTs, and he only completed 20 of 47 passes for a 28 quarterback rating, and he's missing his go-to receiver, Nico Collins, which matters a lot here. But think about now where Houston's franchise is, where they're not talking about giving him an extension, and it takes me to the Washington Commanders here, to a lot of fans in our area and around the state that love the Commanders. Jane Daniels has got an injury history now. Is it Robert Griffin III again? They better surround him with some better parts, and they get rid of the OC and Kingsbury. The Commanders, who were in the NFC Championship last year, to go from the penthouse to the outhouse. In Houston, they're in a division where Jacksonville's not going to be getting worse anytime soon. They got a decision to make what to do with Stroud here, because in a lot of ways, they almost outgained New England, and they played them even except the giveaways. And he made a lot of mistakes in this game.
It is, but with the NFL is so predicated on good quarterbacks, and he's in line. Now, where he is in line is the question. That what they're going to have, and their defense is still extremely good. They're going to have to get him some better hands-on guys.
Oh, I disagree. He's got good enough receivers. Nico Collins, Christian Kirk. I think offensive line is one thing, but that was the excuse for Stroud last year, Ed. He got hit too much. Okay, year 2. He's regressing now. It's not like a high school basketball player who you say he's regressing, and it's not necessarily the case. He's still developing. No, he's regressing. He's got weapons. He's just been inaccurate and inconsistent. I think he's got talent. He's got a great deep ball. I disagree. He's got Kirk and Collins. He's got pieces around him. He's just not. And maybe they got to get a better OC there, because they got rid of Slowick, and it's falling apart. And the same thing could happen to Jane Daniels in Washington if they're not careful and the franchise doesn't make better decisions and choices.
Well, I'm going to stick to what I'm saying, because who are you going to get? Okay, this is what I keep saying when they talk about we can't have this quarterback. Okay, who are you going to get? There's nobody. I mean, we're bringing Phillip Rivers back, for God's sake. Is Joe Montana available? Can somebody buy Tom Brady out of the front office? This is a joke. Quarterbacks are not being developed as well enough. And this idea of these guys like Mendoza or whatever coming in, until I see them be successful, I have big question marks on the quarterbacks from college, only because I hear the NFL people say, well, they're not really NFL ready because, they run a lot of shotgun situation, pistol, whatever you want to call it. They're not taking snaps under center. Well, they don't read. They don't have to do 2 or 3 reads in college as they have to do on an NFL play. Where are you going to get the quarterback? Stroud's a young dude. They're going to have to do something with him. I do believe. I'm shocked that he was that bad, because he didn't do a great job against the Steelers, if you remember that situation.
And they smoked him regardless. Right. No.
So what? It happens again. And what are we going to do? Because their problem now, it seems like they can win the first round playoff game, I think 2 or 3 years in a row, but they can't get past it.
Look, that's fair. I hear what you're saying. But my thing on this big picture is I'm not benching him for Davis Mills in the middle of the game. I'm not. I didn't know it was the call. But what I'm saying is you have to seriously contemplate whether you want to give this guy a lot of money and long-term extension. This was a discussion people had in Miami with Tua Tagovailoa, and I'm a big Tua fan. I'm just saying, do you do it? It's a really legitimate question and debate. Now, final thought here before we go to break. Are you excited for the Broncos if they win with Jared Stidham in the Super Bowl and Seattle beats the Rams? And let's say something happens to Sam Darnold, who, as Howard Balzer told us, has the oblique situation. We could have ourselves a Stidham-Drew Lock quarterback matchup, baby, for the Super Bowl number 60. How about that? I think New England, which has been installed as a 4.5. It jumped up to 5.5 already. Point favorite on the road will get the job done because I can't see Stidham. And that Broncos defense, as sound as it's been, they give them a lot of big plays to Buffalo, who didn't punt once in that game. Didn't punt once in the game. So I give the Pats the edge. I'm going to say we get a Pats-Rams Super Bowl. It sounds like you're leaning with a Pats-Seahawks.
I hope we get what you said, but I've got a feeling I think Seahawks are going to edge out the Rams. And if it's Seattle, New England in the Super Bowl, I will be cutting the grass that day.
Wow. Listen to him. Well, one thing that Coach Young will not be doing is cutting the grass for our next special guest, and that is Washington Post columnist Chuck Culpepper to discuss the national championship game. Oh, who's ready for the Canes and the Hoosiers? I know you are, and we'll talk about it with Chuck right here on 757 Sports Talk. Like, share, and subscribe. And keep it tuned always to Cova Sports TV. Oh, he is the one and only Chuck Culpepper. Chuck, thanks for stopping by. Big championship game on deck. Indiana and Miami. You'll be there to cover it with the Hoosiers and their Hurricanes. A lot of fun in store, it looks like.
Yeah, good morning, Matthew. I think out of the 12 championship games in the playoff era so far, this one is, I think, the most exciting in the run-up. I think everyone's like thrilled to see sort of what's going to happen, especially with this still somewhat of a mystery team, Indiana, that's just rolled over Alabama and Oregon by a combined, I think it was 94-25 in the two playoff games. So there's a lot to it. And I think it being in Miami adds something further. The other time a playoff title game was in Miami was the 2020-21 COVID year. So it wasn't not a real one. So I think there's a lot of people are distraught because it's only 65 degrees. But other than that, I think it's great.
I know one of the things you love about sports, as do I, is the storylines. And you think about Indiana, and the first thing that pops to mind as well is basketball. The general, Bob Knight, the red sweater. We're talking about football here, not basketball. But to be one of the worst programs as far as winning percentage ever for FBS or Division I, and now have this incredible turnaround in just 2 years under Kurt Cignetti, who's been bold, he's been brash, but he's backed it up here with the results. You think of these stories, Cinderella stories. I think of in pro football, Kurt Warner from stocking grocery shelves. You think of the New England Patriots a couple years later when they were an under 500 team, and they went on to win the first of many Super Bowls that they had with Tom Brady, then a fill-in, who became the man, and Bill Belichick as the coach. And you think of other team sports that are college basketball like NC State in the 1980s, Villanova shocking Georgetown. If Indiana does this, though they're the big favorite going into Monday night, which is rare to think about them being favored against Miami, which its history of championships from the days of Howard Schnellenberger and Jimmy Johnson and then Larry Coker when they had a great team in the 2000s. Would this rank as one of the best stories ever? Where would it place for you? Do you have a spot for it?
I think it would be the best college football story ever. I think it would be more than a title. It would find its way into, discussions among all sports and for where its prominence might be. I think it would be 16-0, which we haven't seen yet we've seen it in other divisions, but not in the top FBS. And I think your Rams Warner comparison is the very best one I've heard so far. I had not given that one thought. I was at a game in 1999 in Cincinnati between the Rams and Bengals where they were the two worst teams of that decade. And I think they were either tied or within a game of each other. And we were joking about this will decide who's on the bottom, and that's where the Rams were. And then, that same year, it kept going, and it was early in the season. I think it made them 4-0 or something. It kept going, and they They won the Super Bowl. So I think that's a great comparison to sort of this, not just an afterthought, but something after an afterthought. Nobody thought about Indiana in this way at all. And to have them beat whom they've beaten, and, you know, Ohio State was a fabulous team. And that was one of their, you know, that was 13-10 before these romps got going. But they beat Illinois 63-10 when Illinois was ranked number 9. It's something that I think defies explanation in a way. And it is definitely the greatest college football story if they win this.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with it. And, you know, going back to that comp of the Rams and Warner, ended up doing a movie about it, American Underdog, and Zachary Levi playing Kurt Warner. And certainly the star characters, if they make this into a movie, which it feels it's going to be, regardless of the outcome, you've got Fernando Mendoza, the Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, who's got more touchdown passes than incompletes in this playoff run. And then you have Kurt Signetti, the coach. I mean, I don't know if we're getting Billy Bob Thornton or Dennis Quaid or whoever. We joked Coach Juggle on the show last week who to play him in the movie. But this story is remarkable. On the other side, you have a pretty neat story too in Miami, which felt like, are they back? Mario Cristobal keeps deflecting. That question, whether it's posed by Scott Van Pelt on SportsCenter, whoever in the media, he hates it. But, you know, in a lot of ways, the same type of approach and mentality as Signetti. 1-0. He's not the most friendly, smile, happy-go-lucky, easy interview guy, yet they're having a formula for success, and their line play is going to be a big deal in this matchup here, Chuck. Which more intrigues you, what Indiana does with its offense and throwing it with Mendoza and his efficiency, or Miami's physicality, because they ran the ball at will, and the numbers didn't probably fully tell the story properly, just how well they physically, it felt like, manhandled Ole Miss, a really good SEC team, in the semifinal game. What more intrigues you, the line play of Miami and physicality, or Indiana's ability to spread it out and Mendoza just being accurate, dink, dink, dink?
I think it's that line play of Miami, and I think it's the thing that makes Miami a threat in this game, I believe. I don't see this as looking like the 38-3 of Indiana, Alabama, or the 56-22 of Indiana, Oregon. I see this as closer, and that's why I think it's that line play. You know, Indiana operates on this great precision like we've almost never seen at times. These routes and these timed passes, and just, it's beautiful to see. It really is. And here is, I think, the unit, the Miami line, perhaps most capable of disrupting that we've seen. So that's where I'm going to be looking.
And Miami having this stretch here where they've beaten Texas A&M, they've beaten Ohio State, like Indiana did, although the Hoosiers did it in the Big Ten Championship. They beat Ole Miss, and there were questions about, did they belong? Would they get in? Did they deserve to get in? The whole argument, them and Notre Dame. That's still, you think, in the forefront of minds here? Are we now at the point where it's championship game, push that to the side? It's the last 60 minutes of football or plus if it requires OT. What's your feeling and sense as you get into the game here and look at the matchup? Because that's been something Miami's used a little bit of a rallying cry, I think, when this playoff started. I'm not sure if it still sticks with them. I
think it's maybe 41 days ago that decision came down, that Sunday noon decision. And I think we left it behind, most people, for a lot. I think it's going to pop back if they win this, and they're going to say, the story's going to say Miami, the last team let into the field won the title. And I think that that's going to be remembered. I don't ever like saying that it justified the decision. I thought the decision was the right one, but maybe came about in an awkward way. And that's what made it so harsh to some. But I don't ever like to say that what happens afterward justifies what decision was made. I don't think it should work that way. You should look at the merits of what happened before, to justify. But I think that's how they're always going to be remembered, or one of the ways, as that number 10 seed that won the whole thing.
how do you think the Georgia people are processing this, watching Carson Beck play for a national championship? They had that stretch where they were going for a three-peat, and they lost last year to Notre Dame in the playoff. They fall this year in a close game to Ole Miss. Here's Beck, the former UGA quarterback who got himself a bundle to go to Coral Gables and play for the Canes. What do you think the Georgia people are thinking? And how's Miami looking at this matchup with Beck against that Indiana defense, too? Because the Hoosiers' defense has been overshadowed in some respects by what Mendoza and that offense has done, but they've been mighty, mighty consistent.
Yeah, the Hoosiers' defense is fantastic, really, and aggressive and tough and everything you'd want, really. And, I think the Georgia people I know are still going to watch. Okay. I'm not sure if they had I'm not sure if anybody gets enough time anymore with the way players move to really deeply love these guys like it used to be. I do think there will be a lot of Georgia fans who will be happy for him if he pulls this off. And I think there were stretches of that Mississippi game where he struggled, and I think he threw 4 interceptions in a home loss to Louisville in October. He's played fabulously. He played really well against Ohio State. Very impressive. And but I think there is that question coming up about, will the errors find their way in, and will Indiana, in sort of the way that it did against Oregon, will it, be able to exploit those? As you remember, the first play from scrimmage is a pick six and a touchdown and a terrific read by D'Angelo Pons, the corner on that play. That kind of thing would, if you remember Beck, I just remember last season when I went to Georgia, I think they played Tennessee. Much of the press conference after Kirby Smart was, defending his guy. And that was sort of the way it was for a spell with Beck, which is people have used to be hard on quarterbacks. Now they're harder on quarterbacks. So I think there's still maybe a few questions around him that he can, shut down if he plays great and wins this.
A few minutes here with Chuck Culpepper. He is the outstanding columnist for the Washington Post. Give him a follow on the X, or the Twitter as they call it. And you can find Chuck on the X or the Twitter at Chuck Culpepper1. Read his work in the Washington Post online. Get yourself a copy. It is 757 Sports Talk, powered by Cova Sports TV, as we get ready for the national championship game with the Hoosiers of Indiana and the Hurricanes of Miami, as Indiana installed as a pretty hefty favorite in this one. Opened at 7.5. I think the line currently is now 8.5 as we get you set for kickoff of this game. Chuck, another thing that jumps out to me is the results of these championship games. We've had some really good playoff games. There've been a couple of duds, and Indiana's been able to make a couple of these games lopsided. But read you some of the recent scores here. And since the playoffs started in 2014, this is just in recent years. Buckeyes beat Notre Dame last year 34-23. Michigan beat Washington 34-13. Not that close a game. Georgia over TCU 65-7. Georgia over Alabama 33-18. Alabama over Ohio State 52-24. LSU over Clemson 44. Clemson over Alabama 44-16. LSU over Clemson 42-25. And then in 2017-18, it was Bama over Georgia 26-23 in overtime. We really haven't had a stretch of close games since Bama-Clemson and Bama-Georgia from 15 through 17 for 3 straight years. Does the sport need a tight, good championship game, or do you think it doesn't matter all that much? I mean, people are going to watch regardless when the game kicks off, but what's your sense? Do we need a close game for the CFP to kind of have the feel? Because there were some that were arguing, we don't need the expanded format. We don't love this. What's your gut say?
I don't think it's a close game is needed. And I think if Indiana continues to do what it's doing and runs away even a bit with this thing, I think it's going to fascinate people because it's just so unprecedented. It's like this comet that just suddenly came across the sky and just wowed everyone. I think it has that element to it with Indiana's. And I also think that Fernando Mendoza is one of the most likable athletes we've seen in recent years, maybe recent decades, just, completely charismatic. And I think that, in terms also of needing close game, there's a funny thing going on with college football, and my great colleague Ben Strauss wrote about it yesterday, which is that it is said to be unhealthy. It is said to be in chaos, and the ratings are fabulous. So I don't know how quite to read that, but I think people there are things about this new set of systems and this new wildness that might even fuel some of the ratings in a way. I think people are captivated, and one of the things is there's more parity. There was never parity for 150 years, whatever. There's more parity now, so there's more fan bases who tune in and maybe see Indiana, which is an enormous alumni base, maybe the biggest, I think I read somewhere, and then you see other fan bases, I think, who are intrigued by this because maybe it could happen for us as well.
I think you're probably one of the people too that's like me, captivated to see how the crowd's going to be when it's looking like it could be 60-40, 70-30 Indiana in Miami's place that they play, which is also one of the things that's just hard to fathom, given Miami's got this appeal. You see Michael Irvin everywhere on the sideline. You see Ray Lewis. You see some of their greats they've had that have gone to the NFL, and my goodness, have they had so many of them. But Indiana's, you're right, there's this new kid on the block type of element in Cignetti, just that stoic look and approach. It's something we might not see again. And I don't know that everybody's fully grasped where it is. And to finish up here with you, Chuck, as you watch this game unfold, would the biggest surprise be if it happened the other way, if they were to get blown out? What would be the biggest surprise to you in this championship game if what happened?
Yes, I think by now that is the biggest surprise. If Indiana were to be on the other end of what it has been doing to teams of late, and what it did, during the season to some degree, there were some close games in there, but I just think we've declared that the bye in the 12-team field is bad for teams because the teams who've gotten byes are 1-7 so far, but they bucked that. Mm-hmm. And then the rematch, we don't like those either. I don't really like the rematches in the playoffs either. Yeah, I think it's kind of dull, but the rematches had gone always to the team who lost the first time, almost always. Ole Miss, Tulane being an exception there. And so here came Indiana, Oregon after that. I was at that game in Oregon in October, that hugely impressive win there. And what they did to them just astounded me, on the second meeting. So they bucked that reality too. So I think if they were to lose in some emphatic way, that would shock me the most by now.
Yeah, I'm with you because, I think people want to make college football, other sports. You talk about the buys. People say it's like baseball. They give those teams the break, and this isn't baseball. Or college basketball, we've expanded the field to 16 or 32. This is an NCAA tournament. We're not going to have a tournament feel like that. College football is unique in its own way, in its core. And here we are with the Hoosiers and the Canes. And what will you remember from the season? Certainly this game will probably stick out at the end. It's the closing chapter of this book. For me, it seems like all these different coaching changes. I know we have NIL in the portal now, but it felt like every weekend we'd get to Sunday or Monday, whatever it was, and James Franklin got the boot, or Virginia Tech's Brent Pry gets the boot, or this guy gets the boot. So many coaching changes now. In some respects, Chuck, it almost has taken on more of a monster field than the NFL, where we see so many coaching changes in the NFL, but it felt like every weekend there was 2 or 3 coaches on the serious hot seat from Power 4 leagues, because now there's an expectation of winning and competing for a spot in this playoff now, which has included so many more teams, whereas years ago we would get to this point. It's like, well, we know the Final Four is going to be some combination of Georgia, LSU, Alabama, Ohio State, and these couple of teams. Now there's so many more teams at play, even your teams outside the Power 4, like your James Madisons of the world.
Yeah, and, I think the buyouts I think people are intrigued by the just colossal size of these buyouts. When you figure Franklin, you figure Brian Kelly's, Mark Stoops at Kentucky. That was a pretty big one in buyout wise. And so I think the story of the season that a lot of people will remember is the idea that a coach left his playoff-bound team for one of its most loathed rivals, right at the doorstep of the playoff. I think that's sort of the more, the more drama side of for the story. I think Indiana is going to be the thing that carries it for me. I still, that game between Miami and Mississippi, I was there in Fiesta Bowl, and you saw, it was just, it reminded me that the game is still the best thing. The game is still the eminent, it was as if that game was trying to say, hey, I know you're all interested in the transfer portal and what's going to happen and coaching changes and all, but the game is still can compel you and draw you away from all of that. So I think I'm going to remember Indiana for that reason, in just the sense of the football.
Yeah, you're so spot on, because when you get a great game like that, it can be whatever sport it is. You get drama, and it's down to the wire, edge of your seat, and you're not really sure who's going to win, or the team that has the ball last when it comes to a team sport, as opposed to your individual sports like your tennises and your golfs of the world. There's something about that's got its real special feel to it, and has everybody definitely drawn in. Well, he is Chuck Culpepper. Outstanding work he does all the time in the Washington Post. Go pick up a copy and check it out online. And again, you can follow him on the X or Twitter, if you still call it that, at Chuck Culpepper 1. Always a pleasure, my friend. You enjoy the game, and I will talk again soon.
Thank you, Matthew, so much. Thank you.
Yep, our pleasure. Chuck Culpepper, our guest here, as we preview the college football national championship game coming up on Monday night with the Hoosiers of Indiana and the Hurricanes of Miami. Who's going to take the hardware? Well, we'll find out. We've got more coming your way on 757 Sports Talk. Don't touch that dial. You're watching with us on COVA Sports TV. Like, share, and always subscribe.
We welcome everybody back to 757 Sports Talk. I am the coach, Ed Young. And what an exciting game there was recently on the hardwood in Norfolk between the Norview Pilots and the Lake Taylor Titans, two teams that you'll probably be seeing playing deep into playoffs this year. It took more than 32 minutes to decide this winners, and it goes into overtime. My partner, Matt Hatfield, caught up with a couple of the winning players from Norview, Will Adams and Keon Mitchell, who hit the big dramatic three that you'll see coming up to put the ball into the extra session. Let's check it out here on COVA Sports TV.
Couple of seniors for the Norview Pilots. We got Keon Mitchell on the left and Will Adams. They win it in overtime against the Lake Taylor Titans, 73-66. Lake Taylor's no longer undefeated. Fats, let me start with you. You knew coming in this was going to be a big hype game, crazy atmosphere. Game got delayed with a little bit of ruckus, if you will, in OT. But to win it the way you guys did, how does it feel to knock them off and keep rolling you guys as a team?
It was a big win. Definitely to be the first team to get them an L, but we got more to do.
I know you missed some key free throws, but your stat line was incredible tonight with 34 points, 13 rebounds, 7 assists. Jamari Edwards hits 1 or 2 free throws. Ball's in your hand at the end. Take me through what's going through your mind, the shot you saw and got to go down.
They missed a free throw, and when they was only up 3, I looked at Coach. I asked him, did he want a 3 or did he want me to drive? He said 3. So I took a big shot.
Did you think they might foul you guys to prevent you getting the 3 off there? It happens a lot in college and the pros, or did you know I'm going to get this off?
I mean, they dropped back into a zone. That's what threw me off. I'm like, oh, they just going to give it to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about you. You've been a steady floor general for this Norview basketball team. You're starting to come off the bench for a couple years. Overtime comes. Your teammate here gets you guys some new life with 4 more minutes. What got into you to kind of take over the game there and start the overtime?
I just had to lock in. And Coach said big-time players make big-time plays, so I just had to step up, lock in.
Did you feel like your number would be called, especially with them paying attention to Keon and also Zamarion? Those are kind of your 2 big playmakers off the bounce. Did you feel like you'd get some good looks on the perimeter coming in?
Yeah, yes, sir, for sure. They find me. They going to find me, especially him. He going to find me.
What was this like playing this atmosphere? You've been in some big Eastern District battles, but this one was different. What was different about it?
I mean, the crowd, it was wild.
Yeah.
You really had to lock in and, listen to what Coach was saying.
Sure.
Keon, were you glad you guys got to finish this game? There was a fight that was unfortunate with the fans. Were you hoping to get the game finished here as opposed to having it being postponed another day or something like that? Or
Yeah, definitely. I actually wanted to finish it with a crowd so I could celebrate a little bit more, but it's cool. I take any win.
Sure. And lastly, to get this win tonight over Lake Taylor, what do you guys do from here moving forward? Because you still got more games coming that'll be important on your quest to win a region state championship.
We got practice tomorrow, right back to a big game Monday against Denby. Same thing.
Highlights get it done for the Titans. Thanks so much, guys. Congrats.
And now back to Matthew Hatfield and the evil basketball coach. Blast you, Ed Young!
And we're back here on Cova Sports TV and 757 Sports Talk. Like, share, and subscribe to Cova Sports TV, wherever you are. Ed, we lost a very influential person in the sport of college basketball on the women's side, James Sweat, who coached Norfolk State women's basketball for nearly 20 years, passing away. We send our very best, our thoughts, our prayers, our condolences to James Sweat, his family, and the Norfolk State Spartans community. I didn't get a chance to know him, but I know you did.
Yeah, that's a tough one to take. James was a good dude, really, really good coach on the women's side, though I think he'd have coached men just as perfectly too. A well-known area statewide, and I think in the college basketball world, period, well-respected guy. It's a shame to see what happened, but then again, father time waits for nobody, but tough loss for James Sweat.
Yeah, but a legacy that's enduring and everlasting. So rest in peace to James Sweat of Norfolk State University. Ed, it's time now as we get ready to close out this episode of 757 Sports Talk here on Cova Sports TV for our top 5 girls and boys basketball rankings for the 757 area code. Of course, you can always follow your top 10 rankings on virginiapreps.com. You, as a part of the BCAB, do the girls and boys basketball top 10s for all 6 classifications as well. But last week, you did the boys, I did the girls. This week, we flip-flop it. You get the gals first, and I get the guys. So here's your top 5. Go ahead and explain for the audience.
Number 1, PA, no explanation needed. Number 2, Men'sfield. Getting to the point, maybe no explanation needed. This team really executes well, both ends of the floor. They can go 10 deep fairly easy, and they crush people. Number 3, Kings Fork, starting to really find their groove. They got scoring from all 5 positions, and they're picking it up on the defensive end. Manor, quietly, Roger Smith, one-loss team, and that one loss was to Men'sfield. So they've earned their stripes, and many people might think they should be 3rd. And here's my 5th one. I'm going Salem, Virginia Beach, because they got a record I don't think anybody understands. I think it was 14-2, if I'm not mistaken. So that's my top 5. Those people don't like it. You can have your own also.
All right, so there you have it. He takes out Kellum, puts in Salem, and he flips my rankings of Kings Fork and Manor 3-4. So I'm going to flip what you had last week in the 1 and 2 slots. I'm going to go Lansdowne 1, Hampton 2. I know the Eagles suffered a 3rd loss, but they were up by 16 on Petersburg going into the 4th quarter. Who's going to do that the rest of the year in Virginia? Nobody. And Damian Robinson, the son of Dwight Robinson, had more points at halftime than the entire Crimson Wave team before it became Dunk City or Lob City or Slam City for the Crimson Wave, with Latrell Allman and Ladarius Given just going pound, pound, pound with jam, and a lot of fouls called against the guys from Virginia Beach at the Lawson Classic in the 804. Hampton's very good, number 2. Balanced team inside, outside for Eric Brown. I've got Norview 3. As you saw, they beat Lake Taylor, who suffered their first loss, but bounced back nicely by beating Denby, who's got a key matchup this week against the Norview Pilots. And Oscar Smith is 5th. Tigers have to take on Woodside on Monday in the Kings Fork event and then play Kings Fork on Friday. So a couple of tough matchups awaiting the Tigers of Oscar Smith, the lone unbeaten left in the 757 on the boys' side. And tough sledding for Lansdowne that game against Petersburg, but a lot of whistles against them. And as we close out the show, Ed, we have this for you to see.
Well, Matt Hatfield finally found what it's like not to give up a juice box at Kempsville Elementary during recess time. And this is what happens.
That is what happens. That is exactly what happens.
Right in the kisser. Something I've been meaning to do for so long. I had somebody else take care of it.
No, it wasn't after the Lake Taylor Norview game. It was the 3rd and 4th graders. They got me. But you know what? I cleaned up nicely, as you see on the screen now. Pearly whites are still intact. We'll catch you next time on 757 Sports Talk. We thank Chuck Culpepper, Howard Balzer, and all the guests. And we'll catch you next time right here on Cova Sports TV.
Network.